Welcome back. This is our moment in history. What discredited U.S. presidents' foreign policy accolades rarely get mentioned and may have been some of the most important in America's history? Maury, who do you think it is and why?
Richard Milhous Nixon, probably one of the most unpopular presidents because he made himself such. Even when he was running for vice president along with Eisenhower, he was an obnoxious kind of a guy. He was not a winning personality. And then he was prejudiced, he was anti-Semitic. I mean, he had all kind of negatives about him. However, when it came to understanding foreign policy, there's no president that ever understood it better. And the thing
That's interesting because I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that about Richard Nixon.
I've read every one of his 7
Never
books.
heard anyone say that about him.
He was my son. When he interviewed Nixon, he spent 2 days with him. He said he couldn't believe how much he knew about history of Europe, history of the United States, history of humanity and religion. He's a very highly educated person. But he said he realized that communism at its height when he was in office, after he was elected in 1968, and he was elected for 2 terms, and then was asked to leave by the fathers of the Republican Party because he was creating an embarrassment that they couldn't live with.
Which is amazing, because if you look at what he did versus what this guy's getting away with,
I know.
He's a Boy Scout!
The point I'm getting at is he realized that the combination of China and which was under the rule of Mao Zedong and people like him, and the Soviet Union were almost imponderable to overcome. So he realized that the Chinese communists and the Russian communists were really in competition with each other. So he commissioned Henry Kissinger, who had been a national security advisor, then became Secretary of State, and asked him to go to China. And he first met Zhou Enlai, who was the prime minister, and then he met the king himself, Mao Zedong, and infuriated the Russians. But he was able to work that, and literally was responsible for bringing Russia into the United Nations and ousting the Shanghai Czech group that had taken over Formosa, Taiwan. So that was the beginning of the end of the combination of Russia and China together being so powerful that the United States couldn't overcome it.
Well, that's interesting because I was a 4 or 5-year-old kid at the time, but I still remember that trip. That's how important it was.
Remember those ping pong?
I remember the panda bear they brought back from China.
They had these little things that made it human. And he was seen first he sent Kissinger, and then he came personally, and he met with Mao Zedong and Zhou Enlai, which was considered unbelievable at the time. But that didn't clean up his act. I mean, he would still, Watergate today wouldn't even make page 28 in the New York Times.
For Maury Beschloss and all those unbelievably exceptional folks, the United States Armed Forces, police, firefighters, and all those who go to work each and every day to keep us safe, I'm Scott Crowfoot, and God willing, we'll see each other again.